Did Sinder deserve the treatment she received regarding the Sinder situation? That's what we'll be talking about here. This video is going to have chapters, and everything covered in this video has already been covered. Just opening up for discussion. Did Sinder deserve the treatment she received regarding the Sinder situation? Make note, this is going to be a heavily biased video, so be prepared. So, to begin, I want to look at 4 main accusations that was put against Sinder by Nanolis and Silvervale and Bao. So let's get to it. And there's a lot of it, but right now I believe it best to just focus on what I believe are the main ones, such as the model cancellation of Bao, the exclusivity deal between Nanolis and Redacted, and Bao listing reasons why her model was canceled, and then last but not least, Silvervale's model cancellation. So, let's get into it. We're going to start with Nanolis's doc because that's where it all started from. And I want to look specifically at this screenshot here, the infamous screenshot where apparently Redacted asked Nanolis to cancel Bao's model mid-progress. And here, it's a claim that Nanolis made, saying, Red asked me to cancel on one of their closest friends, Bao, by asking me to cancel my work mid-progress. And then Nanolis provides a screenshot to support this claim, which, fun fact, it does not support the claim. In the screenshot, you can see Redacted asking the question, did you cancel models on August 5th, 2024, 4:13 p.m.? That is not the same thing as saying, hey, cancel Bao's model mid-progress. And since that's not the case here, that begs the question, why were we given a cryptic screenshot and not the actual screenshot of Redacted asking Nano that question verbatim? Why are we given a screenshot that doesn't support the claim? But it heavily implies it if framed correctly. So, to me, that's already a hole in the argument. What do you mean? If you're going to make that claim, at least have proof that that actually happened. This one doesn't prove anything. So let's do a little exercise here, guys. If I were to ask you, the viewer, right now, did you cancel models? Would you think, oh, this person asked me to cancel models mid-progress? Or would you be thinking, yes or no? Like, you know, a simple one-word answer. That's right, a simple one-word answer. Doesn't make any sense. So already there's a hole in that logic. And then we move on to the exclusivity blacklisting other creators deal. Now, and this is my personal opinion, but there is no blacklisting here. There is exclusivity as shown in the screenshot here on January 15, 2025, 6:48 p.m. There is exclusivity because Redacted actually just straight up states, I mean, like, if you wanted to have some kind of model exclusivity, what would you need to make that sustainable for you? And through these screenshots, you can literally see Nanolis and Redacted negotiating the terms and conditions of the exclusivity deal. Now, back to the whole thing with blacklisting. Exclusivity and blacklisting are similar, but they're fundamentally different. Blacklisting is, hey, they did something wrong, they violated a rule, they violated a policy, they are no longer going to have access to our services. And on top of that, we don't have to tell them. Blacklisting doesn't require the other person's knowledge. You can blacklist someone without them knowing and just be like, yeah, I don't want to deal with you anymore. That's blacklisting. Exclusivity is different because it requires consent from both parties. And if one party doesn't agree, then the exclusivity deal falls out. Which is why, in my personal biased opinion, there is no blacklisting here. And I think the way Nanolis portrayed it is wrong. Because here's the thing. If Redacted was setting up the blacklist, as Nanolis claims here, right here, setting up the blacklist, then why does Redacted have to tell Nanolis this? Redacted can just blacklist people of his and Sinder's volition. They don't need to tell Nanolis that, which blows my mind that they're setting up a blacklist Usually, blacklisting doesn't require consent. So it just confuses me why they're negotiating blacklisting here. Wait a minute, Redacted said model exclusivity. It's not blacklisting. So here, that's wrong in and of itself, in my personal opinion. Now, the exclusivity deal, yes, they were talking about the terms and conditions of the exclusivity deal. But here's the main thing that you guys need to realize is, one, here's Nano's response here that's cut out in her doc. But if you go to Bao's doc, you can see that it is not cut out. It's the same screenshot, but Nano has stated, it do be fair. She thought the exclusivity deal was fair. And another thing, this was discussed on January 15th, 2025, but then she talks to Sinder on February 11th and says, Sinder just wanted to say sorry for stepping back on the exclusivity deal. So one of two things happened here. One, she never took the exclusivity deal to begin with, and two, she did, but she backed out less than a month later. Now, people are framing the exclusivity deal as a horrible thing, right? It's a horrible thing to bar Bao, Cotton, and Silvervale from ever having Nanoliss's art, right? But here's the thing, guys. Here's the thing that people don't realize. Nanoliss is not the only artist out there willing to make VTuber models. In fact, let me pull this up right now. Are there many artists willing to make VTuber models? Let me show you guys what Google says. Yes, there are many artists willing to create VTuber models, and the demand for these commissions is high. You can find artists offering a wide range of styles, prices, and levels of experience to suit your needs. So, let me get this straight, right? Let me get this straight. If the exclusivity deal had gone through, right, and Bao, Cotton, and Silvervale were barred from Nanoliss, a VTuber artist, right? Does it prevent them from hitting start on OBS to stream? Does it financially harm them? Maybe. Possibly. Is it preventing them from being a VTuber? No, not really. They have models that they can use. The big thing here is that just because they're barred from Nanoliss's art doesn't mean they're barred from commissioning an artist to make a model for them. Think about that, right? Nanoliss isn't the only VTuber artist out there. There's millions of other artists out there willing to make VTuber models for VTubers. It's not just Nanoliss. So, again, if the exclusivity deal had gone through, what would happen? Well, based on my personal biased opinion, what would happen is, one, it would encourage competition among artists, meaning that Silvervale, Cotton, and Bao would have to go to other artists for them to make them their VTuber models. Granted, it would probably be bumpy at first because they have to establish the connection, get to know the artist, and work with them to make the model, right? Sure. But it encourages competition, which is a good thing, because that means that Cotton, Silver, and Bao would be supporting other artists, not just Nanoliss. So, this exclusivity deal has more pros than cons, because again, if the exclusivity deal had gone through, that would make Silvervale, Bao, and Cotton support other artists to make their VTuber models. That's a good thing. It gives business to other artists, and Nanoliss already makes a lot of money from her models for her clients. It's not really bad. The only bad thing is, oh no, Nanoliss is no longer able to make our models. All right, I'll just find another artist to make a VTuber model for me. It's not that as bad as what people make it out to be. And if the exclusivity deal hadn't gone through, which, by the way, it didn't happen, or it stopped, well, that just means that Cotton, Silver, and Bao have access to Nanoliss's art. It's like more pros than cons with an exclusivity deal. Plus, remember, an exclusivity deal requires consent from both parties, and as we saw in the screenshot with Nano on Bao's dock, she thought it to be fair. So, the whole thing with the exclusivity deal was blown out of proportion, in my opinion, because, hey, what's wrong with supporting other artists? Huh? Anyway. The next claim I want to address is on Bao's dock, exactly, which we were on. Oh my goodness, please don't do this to me during recording. Yeah? Okay, cool, it's working. Alright. The biggest thing I want to point out here is that Bao makes the claim that Nanoless asked Redacted on why he is encouraging Nano not to finish her model. Okay? That's a big thing here. And then she makes references to these screenshots here showing like Bao is getting on our nerves for a while, yada yada, and she references these messages here. And I want you to make note of the date. This is January 15th, 2025, okay? Bao's model cancellation happened on August 6th, 2024. So, my logic is just simply confused now, because Bao is referencing stuff that happened 4 to 5 years in the future for the reason her model was cancelled in August last year, 2024. That doesn't make any sense. What would make more sense is to be like, oh, here are reasons that they decided to cancel my model before August 2024. I've yet to meet someone that has looked me in the eyes and said, hey, let's go to 4 to 5 years in the future to discover why my model is being canceled right now. Doesn't make sense to me. Especially this is stuff that happened 4 to 5 months in the future. And on top of that, Bao says Nanoless asked Redacted why he's encouraging her not to finish her model. But January 15th was after August 2024. This happened after. What? How can you ask someone why you're encouraging X person to not finish the model when it's already canceled by this point? It doesn't make sense to me. That's already a flaw there. So already the first, second, and third stuff I covered, there's flaws with all of this. It doesn't make sense. And then the final one that I wanted to talk about was Silvervale's model cancellation. So in her doc, she states, I am now aware that the actual reason for declining to work with me on my birthday model was external pressure from Redacted and Sinder. Words cannot describe how heartbroken I was and am. So here's the thing that bothers me. The key words here was external pressure from Redacted and Sinder. Okay. Now, if you look here, and by the way, keep in mind, is my own personal biased opinion. Keep in mind that Nanoless tells Silvervale directly, Silver, I have to cancel the model comm. I'm sorry, my manager told me I have to cancel the most comms possible for healthy reasons. I've been working too hard and it's getting into me. I really apologize for this inconvenience. Nanoless states herself it's because of health reasons. But then Silvervale provides screenshots to support the external pressure that Sinder and Redacted did to Nano on regarding canceling her model, right? So, let's see here. So, the model was canceled on November 17th. This conversation takes place 8 days after the model cancellation, and Redacted is basically talking to Nanoless and saying, right, I know, I just didn't think our other conversations sounded like I was trying to make you not work with her on a model, like Silver specifically, and goes down. And the cool thing here is that Redacted asks the question, you didn't tell Silver you canceled because of Sinder, did you? Nanoless, no, I told all of them it was health issues. And then Nanoless replies, I would never blame anyone besides Mio. If you don't know who Mio is, that's Nanoless's lover, as far as I understand. So, she wouldn't blame anyone other than her lover. And then Redacted follows up by stating, we never want to make you feel like we're making you or forcing you to not work on something, especially if it's something you don't want to do. And our conversation the other day was meant to convince you of only doing Sinder work. Again, sorry that it sounded to you like I was telling you to only do Sinder work. I'll message you later. Redacted apologizes and clarifies he's not trying to make Nanolis work only on Sinder stuff. Huh? Like, where's the external pressure? What are these screenshots don't support it, or weakly support it at best, that there was external pressure. And Nanolis even says it herself, I would never blame anyone besides Mio, which is her lover. And then, to cherry on top of the cake, there's a screenshot that occurs apparently 6 days before this convo, saying, well, let's see if Geary wants a nano model or not, and hope Silver finds someone else. These screenshots are put out of order. What the this screenshot here isn't part of this screenshot convo here. So already, the 4 things I wanted to point out has flaws. Okay? There's flaws in all of this. It doesn't make sense. And then Sinder finally apologizes to these flawed accusations, right? And she goes on to say, there's nothing I can say to make this better, but I will try my best to properly convey my feelings, frustration, and mistakes. And there's a lot of information here, but I'm going to put this, I'm going to point out some things about it. She states, this doesn't absolve me of the things I've willingly done wrong and went along with, or the way I've treated people who were fully undeserving. And then in terms of Silvervale, by the way, in terms of Silvervale, she states, Silver was completely undeserving of this treatment, and it was my own insecurities that led me to making this choice. I became unapologetically evil towards her due to no direct action of her own. There's no excuse for any of this. She takes accountability for it. She apologizes. She's explaining herself like she said at the beginning of her apology, and she's taking the time to explain herself, and then she's going to apologize. She literally dedicates sections to the people affected, like Nano, saying, like, I'm so sorry I let things get to this point, or even entertaining the thought of you working exclusively with me. She's literally taking responsibility for this. She even she even says, like, I can't stress enough how disappointed I am that I didn't see this sooner until I got to a breaking point. I'm sorry, Bao. Sack, I'm so sorry for everything that's happened. To Con and Lily, I'm so sorry you had to get dragged into this. It's my fault I let it get this far, but I hope you can believe me when I said I had no knowledge of her bringing you up in Nano's DMs. She's apologizing and taking accountability for her actions. To Silver, to Spite, to Peaches, Rain, to the Pyro Pups. She apologizes to everyone. She takes the time to explain herself and to apologize to everyone. And do you know what she got in response when she took accountability and she apologized to people? This. She gets a response from Shy Lily, saying the absolute audacity to sit here and continue to manipulate and gaslight is absolutely insane. What are you talking about? Bruh. She apologized, like literally in her doc. She says, hey. There's nothing I can say to make this better. I will try my best to properly convey my feelings, frustration, and mistakes. I'd like to explain my point of view and apologize to each party affected. She even says, like, this doesn't absolve me of the things I've willingly done wrong and went along with, or the way I've treated people who are fully undeserving. She realizes this, she's taking accountability for it, and for some reason, Shy Lily is stating the absolute audacity to sit here and continue to manipulate and gaslight people is absolutely insane. And then she says this, to claim you didn't know a single thing and had zero awareness of what your man was up to is utter false. It is a load of malarkey, because if you go to the apology here, she had an idea. She admits it. She literally is like, I was not fully aware of the extent of Red's manipulation over Nano's commission decisions, and I should have been more diligent in my oversight. And then for that, regarding the exclusivity deal made between them, I had no part in the direct negotiations of their eventual agreement. I had no knowledge of Bao and Con being included in this list. If I had known my friends were included, I would have said something to put a stop to it. I was only aware of it being about one person who I was unfairly pursuing. And to put in perspective, in regards to Nanolis, the majority of the time working with her, Red was the one almost solely doing the communication about new plans and negotiations through his private DMs. So the claim that Shy Lily made is a bunch of malarkey. Sinder had some idea of what was going on. What? And then she goes on to say, I have experienced your own actions that I read in the situation where in your own screenshotted words you express a pressure to live up to what Lily is and proceeded to throw one of your most loyal and supportive friends under the bus after months of continuous planning just because you consistently chose business over friends, never feeling bad falling for them. Failing them. And like the thing is that pressure to live up to what Lily is in your own screenshotted words. I don't even know where Shy Lily's getting that. Let's go to Nano's doc real quick. Let's go to the convo that even has Sinder in them. Nowhere in there is Shy Lily mentioned. Oh, I'm so sorry, that's censored? Let's go to Silvervale's doc because it's not censored there. If you look closely, nowhere in there is Shy Lily mentioned in these screenshots of Sinder talking. There's a third screenshot here that includes Nanolis and Sinder, and it should be around 2023. But the thing is that if you look at these screenshots, like I've said already for the umpteenth time, yeah, this is 2023. Shy Lily isn't even mentioned in them. So I don't even know where Shy Lily's even getting up to this. And then in the reply section, we have VTubers calling her out for that and saying, like, I'm just really disappointed, dude. And Yatasha Nanners even said stuff about it. Trickwee, Lena, Cha-Cha, Feifei, Milky, Ellie, 80s, Mooney, Mim. Some of these are impartial, but most of them are just like... So, and this one bothers me. Alicia Rat Queen. So she states, so when is the real apology to people? Because this doc is mostly shoving blame onto your boyfriend? What do you mean? If you actually take the time to read... She literally states, it's my fault! Like, if you actually take the time to read this and not go with the biased narrative that's being thrown out there, you can literally see that she's, like, can't stress enough how disappointing I am. And the whole thing with throwing Redacted under the bus, like, what? Where are you even getting that? I feel like Cinder's holding him accountable for what he said to Nanolis about Bao. And, like, a good example is about the MV one, which I think was... uncalled for. Yeah, see, Bao had original songs last year that had MVs by her editor, and the songs flopped, which is blatantly, in my personal opinion, untrue. I think it's untrue. But in her apology, she even clarifies some things about that. She says that she doesn't condone... Let's see, where are you? Here it is. She states, I do not condone anything about what Red said about Bao in these DMs either, and him using we and our in this context is abhorrently incorrect, and I believe was done to gain credibility behind what he was saying. See, even Sinder was like, I don't condone this. I didn't know Redacted was doing all this behind my back. So, this is the reception for her apology. For Sinder saying sorry, for Sinder explaining herself, for Sinder taking accountability. Some people are saying she didn't take accountability and threw Redacted under the bus. If you read the document, if you read the freaking apology, if you take the time to actually understand what you're reading, because there's a difference between reading and understanding what you're reading, you will see, hey, Sinder did apologize and take some accountability for some of this stuff that doesn't even make sense. Remember, I pointed out 4 flaws in the accusations put against Sinder, and Sinder still apologized and took responsibility for it. Huh? And then, because of all this, and I put it out in a previous video, Sinder lost subscribers from her YouTube channel, over 26,000 in April. And then in Twitch, she lost over 20,000 followers in the month of April. If I can just not do that right now. Yeah, there we go. And then, oh look, she hasn't streamed since the end of April. She's been offline for like 3 months now. Like, what the actual heck? And then, so, let's put this in perspective, guys. Let's put this in perspective. What I showed you is that there are big major flaws with the accusations put against Sinder. right? There's flaws with all of that. There's misunderstandings with all of that too, as in my personal opinion, personal biased opinion. And when Sinder takes the time to apologize to the parties affected and explain herself, she still gets publicly smeared. She still gets berated. She lost subscribers, she lost followers, she lost money because a content creator requires viewership and subscribers for their money. She suffered financial harm, as from what I understand from the metrics I showed you. All because of the horribly presented accusations of Bow's model cancellation, Silvervale's model cancellation, and the exclusivity deal. Let that sink in. Redacted didn't ask Nanolis to cancel Bow's model mid-progress. The exclusivity deal was not as bad as what people thought, because if it had gone through, then Silver, Cotton, and Bow would be supporting other artists beside Nanolis. And if it didn't happen, well, they'd still have access to Nanolis's art. That's the exclusivity deal. It's not as bad as what people think. And then Bow, referencing stuff that happened in January 15, 2025 as the reason why her model got cancelled in August 2024? And then the last thing is Silvervale's model cancellation, where she states there was external pressure by Sinder Redacted to cancel the model. A, Nanolis told Silvervale herself it's due to health reasons. B, Nanolis said she wouldn't blame anyone except her lover Mio for the model cancellation, as far as I understand. And C, I guess, I don't know, I lost track, is the fact that the screenshots to support the supposedly claimed external pressure, Redacted apologizes and clarifies, we're not trying to make you do exclusively Sinder stuff. I didn't mean it that way. These accusations is what led to the Sinder situation. These accusations led to Sinder suffering financial harm. These accusations led to Sinder apologizing and taking accountability for the flawed accusations. And even when she did, she received backlash and a load of hate. She did all that she could to take accountability and to quell the storm. But apparently, it wasn't enough. So, yeah. Shylily, Bow, and Nanolis did it. They did it. They reputationally harmed and financially harmed Sinder. They did it. Damage is done. They made Sinder not stream for 3 months. She's been offline since this drama has happened. They did it. They did it. They basically kicked a VTuber out of the VTuber space over flawed accusations. Bow's model cancellation, the exclusivity deal, the Bow saying the reason why her model got canceled, Silvervale's model cancellation. Those flawed arguments, those flawed accusations was all it took. And them boasting the narrative that Sinder didn't take accountability as all it took to just kick Sinder out of the VTuber space. They did it. And I'm going to be real with you guys. I can report this, I can tell you my opinions, I can point out flaws in the arguments, but the big thing here is the damage is done. It's already done. They did it. Shylily, Bow, and Nanolis, they won. They did it. They kicked a VTuber that people loved out of the VTuber space, like sphere, with flawed accusations. They did it. And Sinder didn't deserve this. No. Sinder did not deserve the reception she got for the Sinder situation. She didn't deserve any of that. Because, think about it, guys. If there was a problem between them, why go to the massive fan bases you have? Like, why would you go and tell other people other than the person you have issues with? It's like saying, like, I can't even think of a good analogy for that one. It's like, Cinder, so they're like, Cinder's the reason that we're being hurt, and we can talk to Cinder, but I don't think I can do that, even though there's nothing stopping me from talking to Cinder. In fact, I think the best way to handle this is to talk to the masses instead of addressing the source of the problem. Like, it's like if your water heater went out at your house, right? And instead of fixing the water heater, you instead try to heat up the water while you're showering. That's essentially what Shiley Lee Bow and Analyst did. Like, they had an issue with Cinder. Why didn't they talk to Cinder about it? Why did they decide that making Google Docs was the best course of action? Why bring it to the public? Why involve people unrelated to the problem and drag them into the problem? Think about that, guys. Why would they bring in people that is unrelated to the problem to solve the problem? So let me get this straight. You have an issue with Cinder and Redacted, right? Why don't you just talk to them about it? Why don't you just do that? Why did you feel the need to let the masses know that Cinder did this? What? That doesn't even solve the problem. It's like, you have the tools to fix your water heater because the water heater isn't working. But instead of fixing the source of the problem, you try to fix it elsewhere? Taking a shower and trying to heat up the water while you shower? Like, it doesn't make sense to me. And again, this is my personal biased opinion. But yeah, no, Cinder did not deserve the reception she got from the Sinder situation. Now, everything I use for the video will be in the description below. I encourage you, the viewer, to go to the source so that way you yourself can come to your own independent conclusion.